Hi guys, welcome back to Plastic Paddies Podcast. Cade me the Vulture, and what are we on? Episode number
9.
9, guys. We've been doing this for 9 whole weeks. It's gone fast, but also feels like we've been doing it forever at the same time. I feel like.
I agree. But 9 episodes, that's awesome.
9, yeah.
Well, more than, because there's Therapy Thursday in there.
Yeah,
So
and therapy. Well, I'm not counting them as like official episodes. I feel like
that's a thing in its own.
Yeah, it's its own
like,
separate thing. But we're nearly at 10.
Yeah.
We're very nearly at 10 episodes.
Exciting.
I have to say a big thank you to all of our new followers and subscribers. We're at 94 followers on Instagram, guys. Please, 6 people, just follow us. Get us to 100.
Yeah.
And on TikTok, we've got 74. So again, we're really not far away at all from 100. So come on.
I feel like that's grown really quickly.
Really quickly, yeah, it has. So lads, come on, get subscribing, get following. But yeah, thank you to everyone that has followed us. It's very kind of you. Oh, I also have to say something I'm very excited about this week. We've got another famous follower. We've got 2 famous followers actually. So there's a boxer from Belfast. His name's Tommy Mac. He has followed us on Instagram, and
yes.
I've got no shame. I have to let you all know that I've got no shame when it comes to chasing guests about this podcast. Like, absolutely none.
But it's great.
And I put on Instagram when he started following us. I screenshotted it and put it on Instagram and was like, "Oh my god!" And I added him in it and was like, "Tommy, you're a legend. Thank you so much. We'll have you on as a guest one day." And he reposted it on his story, being like, "Definitely." So I'm like, I'm going to be stalking.
So now you've opened up the
can of worms. Yeah, you definitely have. I'm going to be onto you like a crazy person. And then the second person who I'm so excited about is Dane Buckley, who is a comedian.
Is this? He's half Indian, half Irish?
He's half Indian, half Irish, and he's massively connected to his Irish side, and he's hilarious.
Super funny.
So I'm getting him on. Dane, if you ever see this, you are coming on this podcast, okay?
Dane and Tommy. Not in the same episode. I feel like that'd be weird mashup.
It would, very weird. But you will both be on this podcast one day. I am telling you, you will not escape me. But yeah, so I feel like, guys, the community is building and I'm very excited about it.
All going in the right direction.
It is indeed. And you know what it's time for, gang? I'm sorry, we don't have a jingle. We don't have it, oh. So you're going to have to...
Ready? We can sing it.
Listen to our cat scratching voices. Are you ready? It's time for Irish Word of the Week.
I always want to say Irish Word of the Day.
I know. I think we started off with Irish Word of the Day and changed it to week. The Irish Word of the Week this week is liachra. Liachra, I think that's right. I'll put it on the screen, obviously, but liachra, and it means warrior, which is very relevant.
Fitting.
Yeah, very fitting for this week's topic, which is, we're still on, I didn't even say this at the beginning of the episode, guys, but we're still on Irish mythology. We spanned the wheel and it landed on beliefs, and we covered we said we're not going to do religion because that has its own section. So we covered non-religious beliefs. We started off with superstitions and all of that fun stuff. And then we got into Irish mythology, and it's broken down into 4 cycles. Not last week, we skipped an episode last week. You'll find out why soon. But the episode before that, I spoke about the mythological cycle, which is the first one. So this week, we're talking about the Ulster Cycle, which, we'll talk about that further in a little while. But let's catch up on our week. How's your week been, Shauna T?
Good. It's finally sunny, which makes such a difference.
I'm telling you, I know everybody else thinks wherever they live is the best place in the world when it's summer.
No,
London is the best place in the world when it's sunny.
London in summer just hits differently. It is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday I went to my favourite pub in London, the Crabtree, one of my favourite pubs. And then we just...
What's it called?
The Crabtree.
Where is it?
In Hammersmith. Yeah,
nice.
In Hammersmith. And it's on the Thames. It's really nice. They do really good food. And it's just always a good time.
Cute. I've never been. I'm going to have to give it a go.
Yeah. We sat in the sun and I just was
yeah.
It's been really nice. The weather's been great.
Oh, it makes such a difference to your mood.
Nothing to complain about.
When you wake up in the morning and it's so light outside.
And sunny.
Oh, it's
even
delicious.
when it's rained this week, I'm like, oh, okay, it's bright out.
Yeah, exactly. Chef's kiss.
What about you? How was your week?
My week was good. I feel like we've got a lot to catch up on about week stuff because these guys haven't seen us for a while. So you went to Italy. That's how long you've not.
Oh wow! I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I haven't done anything this week. Yeah, I did go to Italy.
Where did you go?
I went to Venice, one of my favorite places in Italy, and it was phenomenal. Again, it was sunny, so all I did was eat and drink and sit in the sunshine, and it was phenomenal. Yeah, like I have been before. Emma, who I went with, has not been before. But she wasn't like fussed to do. We did like
Some
the main
stuff.
attractions, the main things to see. We like ventured everywhere, but it was just like the perfect long weekend to just chill.
Aperol spritzes and
many
pasta.
Well, a Venetian spritz, not an Aperol
What's the
spritz.
difference?
I don't know. One is orange and one is red, but to me they taste exactly the same.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know what the difference is. So if you know, let us know.
Controversial. I'm not a huge fan of Aperol spritz. When I see people drinking them in the summer, I'm like slathering at the mouth because they look so good, and I'm like, I'm getting an Aperol spritz, and I buy one, and I'm like, it's like bitter tasting, and I don't like
I thought
it.
this, and then
I feel like it's the sign of like
I drank in Venice.
I feel like it's the sign of like an adult palate if you like an Aperol spritz.
It's like the step up from Pimm's.
Yeah, it is. I'm still like, give me a pint of Guinness or lot. I'm like, oh, it's so bad.
I also said, I don't like Aperol spritz, and that's how I hydrated myself for 4 days. So,
when you've drank that many of them, you've not really got a choice.
Sunny, I don't really care what I'm drinking. And they were so cheap.
Really?
They were like €5, which was like £3 something. And I was like,
nice.
Okay.
We can carry on drinking these.
Yeah.
What else did we also, has been the highlight of like my last couple of weeks. We went to see the Merry Wallopers live in concert. We told you guys that we were going to go and see them a while ago.
Yeah.
They were at the Kentish Town Forum, and they were, when I say unreal, they were unreal. Like,
plus the energy in there was nuts.
So obviously, anyone that's listened to the Merry Wallopers, you'll know that their music is really good. They are an Irish folk band, and they cover a lot of old Irish folk songs. And they're like, but they're cool because they're still young.
Yeah.
It's like they're bringing Irish music
like revival.
back. Yeah, it is like an Irish music revival, like an Irish folk revival.
And they have fun with it. Like they're not like,
they're not so serious or anything, are they? They're like super young,
chill.
super cool. There's lots of them on stage, and every single one of them plays an instrument. They're really talented.
I feel like most of them played more than one instrument.
More than one instrument as well. They were brilliant. They're really funny as well. Like they interact with the crowd quite well. But their fans are crazy.
We were on the
balcony,
and it was
rocking,
shaking.
Literally rocking.
Yeah,
you weren't supposed to stand up, and they didn't for a while.
They managed to retain themselves.
Yeah, but then when their like super lively songs came on,
it was out of the window.
But the balcony was actually bouncing.
We both just sat there.
We were like, oh,
okay.
But then we stood up and just got involved as well. It was really fun. And like so when we first got in there, it was really empty, and we were like, oh, should we stand right at the front? Like it'll be great. And then we was like, no, we don't want to stand. We're old ladies, guys.
Yeah.
Let's go and take a seat upstairs. And we were so glad we didn't, because these young guns at the front were like, it was like a mosh pit, wasn't it?
It wasn't like a mosh pit.
It was a mosh pit. They were going crazy. Yeah. And it was so fun to see.
The whole thing was swaying. Yeah. And
it was amazing. It was, because I knew of their music, and I introduced Shauna to them, so she'd listen to their music. But to be fair, I was going to say you didn't expect it, but I don't think I did either. We didn't expect an Irish music concert to be that crazy, though, did you?
And I don't think the security guards did either. This was my favorite part of the night, was watching their faces, because something would happen. Like when people started all dancing together, the whole bottom mosh pit was moving as one, and cups were flying, beer was flying, and these security faces were like,
they were like,
what is happening?
I don't think we've prepped for this.
No,
I don't think we've got enough people.
No.
I don't think
they were all like,
there was like young kids getting dragged out. It was really funny, wasn't it?
There was this one guy who was wearing bright red pants. So the only reason I know it was the same guy. He was body surfing. He body surfed to the front. The security guys would pull him down, and he would just run around, go again. It was like a game, and they were so pissed off at him, but he thought it was hilarious.
It was so funny. Yeah, it was really, really good, and their music is just so fun,
so good.
There was like some old ladies sat in front of us, and by the end of the night, even they were up like going for it. It was really, really good. I loved it.
Yeah, and everybody was just good.
Yeah, everyone was just like good vibes.
Yeah.
So large up yourselves, Merry Wallopers. I would go and see them again, 100%.
I would too, and now I know what to. I was just a bit like,
Yeah.
This is not at all how I thought this night was going to go.
I feel like anyone would expect, when you think of like an Irish folk concert, you'd expect it to be quite tame.
Well, especially where we were, like the section, obviously, because we're old ladies, we were sat with the more reserved of the people attending, and that was still nice. So
yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been our week, and we've got another exciting trip coming up. We're going to Ireland, guys. Yay! We're going to Cork, which I'm really excited about because I've actually never
Cork
been.
and places because we have a car.
We've hired a car. We're doing the whole majig. We've got 4 or 5 days. 4 days,
3 nights,
and we're going to drive to some places. If any of you got any like recommendations for places like, around Cork, we would like to go to a beach.
Or if you're like, you must go here for dinner, you gotta go here for a pint, let us know.
Any recommendations, please do let us know. But yeah,
it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be so
excited. We're excited. We're doing that next week.
The week after. Oh, it's next
Sunday? Not this coming week, but next week. No, Monday. We leave Monday.
Oh my God, it's not far, guys. I'm excited.
So
I can't wait.
in 2 weeks, I guess?
Yeah, like 2 weeks basically.
Or a week on Monday.
I can't wait. And we've got a sad announcement, guys. We've got happy announcements about our trip, but we've got a sad announcement. Shauna, tell them what the sad announcement is.
You will see more of Caitlin's beautiful face and way less of mine.
Yeah, Shauna has decided to step away from the podcast a little bit.
Not because it's phenomenal. No, it's been so much fun.
Yeah.
Everything's been amazing. Just there's lots of things going on behind the scenes.
Life stuff.
Yeah.
And she's got a big girl career. And she enjoys it and she wants to commit to it and she wants to really like...
And I don't want to be half-assed to the podcast.
Yeah.
So I had to make the decision to be all in and not so all in with my career, or all in with my career and you just get to pop in and have some fun sometimes.
Yeah, so that's the decision that she made. So,
which was not easy. It took hence why there was no episode last week.
Yeah, that we were just sort of going back and forth and discussing things and deciding what we were going to do. So I'm obviously quite sad, but she is a big girl and she has to do what she has to do.
Plus, I'll be back.
She will be back. We're dragging her on for episodes, so you're never going to see her or hear her
and
again.
I would like to do a lot more behind the scenes stuff now.
Yeah, so I feel like she'll be more involved. Like Shauna is Miss Organisation, and I feel like she'd be good like just doing that stuff behind the scenes. So it'll just be me by myself. Well, the thing is, it will be me by myself. I've hopefully got some really exciting guests coming up. So you will. It won't just be me all the time. And
even if it is, though, you were great in your solo episode. I would listen and it was great.
But I must admit, doing it alone is tough. It's not an easy feat. And I know people that do.
Not. But you should be like mad proud of yourself.
Thank you very much.
I mean, you got the cats.
That's true. You'll see more of my cats as well. They'll be keeping me company now. But yeah, doing it by yourself is not hard. So I'm going to be dragging a lot of people on. Callum, my brother, if you're watching, you're going to be on some of these episodes. With the jingle.
But there's no animosity.
No, of course not. We're family and we will always be friends and we'll always love each other. But yeah, Shauna's just going to be stepping away. So this is her very last episode. You'll see her on Therapy Thursday, actually. But Therapy Thursday will be her official last appearance for some time. But
unless she spins snacks next, which
unless she's because that's the one she's wanted to do snacks for the longest time. So if I spin food next for whatever reason, she'll be back.
Just because I want an excuse to go buy all the Irish snacks and try them.
Yeah, we'll do a taste test as well of what's better, British versus Irish.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I'm still going to Ireland. I'm still gonna tag along.
She will.
You won't see me.
You just won't see her as much. That's all. Anyway. Now it's time for another cat scratch jingle. It's time for Irish News Story of the Week.
It'll eventually just show up and people will be like,
it will. Yeah, you'll miss it when it's not here, guys, I'm telling you. So this week's Irish News Story of the Week is it's a bit of a serious one, but it's kind of fits in with what we're talking about. Oh. So historically, Ireland as a country has always remained sort of neutral in any conflicts going on around the world. They even in the world wars, neutral.
They were very neutral. Yeah,
they didn't get involved.
No,
but obviously with everything that's going on with Ukraine at the moment, they have still taken a stance of military neutrality. But this week there has been a report to say that they're having like a discussion, I suppose, about whether that status of neutrality is going to remain. So Michael Martin has said, we will discuss what our current policy of military neutrality means, whether it is fit for purpose in the current global security environment, and whether we need to define more clearly what we do and do not mean by military neutrality. Which is
That's a big step for Ireland.
It is a massive step for Ireland, and I wonder...
I do think, though, it is a necessary step.
Do you think?
Because they always... I think they have in my opinion, Ireland has a lot more to offer than people give it credit to.
Yeah.
And things like, there's value in being neutral when it comes to military. But they aren't this little helpless country that doesn't have anything to offer. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that changes people's perspectives.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think globally it might make the rest of the world sort of view Ireland a bit differently. Maybe
I think it might add value to Ireland to some countries.
That's true. That's very true. But on the whole,
it's a very dangerous game to play because there are very little countries.
Very little. And their military is very, very, very small because they've never needed a huge military because they've always remained
But
neutral.
they would never, I don't think he would make a decision that stands Ireland alone. I think he would, ally
I think they're in NATO anyway, so they have allies and stuff already.
But I think they're just in NATO, where I think if they change their stance on military neutrality, they're in NATO.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean by that difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
but it fits with our theme of warriors today.
It does.
So
We've got a lot of warrior themed stuff coming your way, guys. But yeah, that was Irish News Story of the Week. Let's see what happens with that. Let's see what they decide.
Kate will have an update for you.
Yeah.
That's gonna be so weird to say.
I know.
We say this, but I hope we film a lot of stuff in Ireland, like just TikToks.
Yeah, I think we will.
Definitely. Getting a tattoo.
Oh, we are getting a tattoo.
We just managed to book a hotel, a car, and a flight, and a tattoo all in one.
All in one day. We had a very productive trip booking day, guys. But yeah, on to the juiciness, on to the meat of the episode. We are talking about the Ulster mythology cycle. Shauna T, over to you.
Okay, so we're moving on to the Ulster Cycle. And I think a reminder again that, ancient Irish culture was an oral culture. So if you've heard a different version than what we're sharing, take it with a grain of salt. It's like a game of telephone when things are in oral culture. So it gets changed and not manipulated, but like just different.
Yeah, things get changed as they go. Yeah, definitely.
And the first myths were written down in the 8th century by Christian monks. So
yeah,
you also have to know that
it's Christianized a lot. It's
Christianized. So the original myths would have been different because they would have been oral storytelling, and then the first people to record it had a religious agenda. And so they Christianized them. So they are different than they would have originally been, but this is what we've got. Yeah. Which is why Christianity is woven through everything.
Yeah, it is. Because
they were trying to...
They, obviously, when the Christians arrived to Ireland, all over the world really, it was pagan societies, which were like... polytheist, and obviously they're Christian don't agree with polytheism. No. They are monotheistic. There's one God, y'all.
I was gonna say, if you don't know what that means, it means multiple gods versus one God.
Yeah.
So, and they're not gonna, if you're a monotheistic religion, you're not gonna write about multiple gods. That's very contradictory.
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't.
They didn't. They said no. We're going to pick one god. But getting to the Ulster Cycle. So this is the second in the 4 Irish mythological cycles. And you can probably tell from the title that it's set in the province of
Ulster. Yeah. Which is where our family's from.
Yeah. So this is a close to home one.
Yeah.
Last week, Kate left off at the end of the mythological cycle.
Yeah.
So the Tuatha Dé Danann. And the Milesians made a deal that the Milesians would live above the surface on the land of Ireland, and then the Tuatha Dé Danann would live below in the other world.
That's right. Yeah. So they're like considered to be the Milesians are just human. Obviously, they live on the island of Ireland, and the Tuatha Dé Danann live on the other world, and they're worshipped as like gods now. They're like the gods that the people worship as pagans. The pagan people of Ireland worship these gods.
Not like the underworld, just differentiate on where they live.
It's not the underworld. It's not like hell.
No.
It's called...
I just said that and I was like, it sounds like...
Yeah, no, it's not. But they live in the other world, which is like the mirror. Think of like Stranger Things. You know, where the underneath world is like the mirroring the surface. Like, let's say it's
think
like
of it two parallel universes.
Yeah, exactly.
I just explained that. I was like, that sounds like heaven and hell. It's not. So, but the people in the Ulster Cycle are mostly Milesians, and the Tuatha Dé Danann are now worshipped as pagan gods, which you said, and Kate will do an episode about that at some point.
Yeah, we'll learn all about the different gods.
Yeah, so the mythological cycle focuses on the magic, where the Ulster Cycle focuses more on warriors, hence our word of the day and Irish news of the week. So it's about heroes and battles and kings and queens and conquests.
Yeah.
And Kate also briefly mentioned in the last episode that Ireland has been divided into 5 provinces.
Yeah.
Each of the provinces has a ruler, and there is a high king who rules over all of Ireland.
Yeah, so now in this Ulster Cycle, this is the state in which Ireland is in. There are 5 provinces, each with its own king or queen, and then a high king that rules over the whole of Ireland.
Yeah. So the Ulster Cycle is set in and around the time of the rule of a guy named Croher, Mac Nessa. He's the king of Ulster, and Maeve, who is the queen of Connacht. It's set around this time, and a lot of stories involve these two, so you hear them a lot.
Yeah.
Croher is born to a woman named Nessa, hence the surname Mac Nessa, meaning son of Nessa.
Yeah.
And Croher's father is often questioned. Again, it goes back to oral history. We're not really sure.
Yeah, it's either the husband of his mother. Or it's this druid guy that his mum had an affair with.
Yeah, this druid then goes later on to serve Croher. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, so Nessa's husband, and correct me if I say this wrong, Factin. This one.
Let's have a look. I'm going to guess it's Facna. No, let's just say his first name.
He's the king of Ulster initially, but then he dies. So the title of the king goes to the brother Fergus. However, Fergus for some reason wants to marry his dead brother's widow Nessa.
Okay,
which is a bit weird, but that's fine. we ask no questions. So Nessa spots a big opportunity. She says, "You know what? I'm a widow, and I've lost all my title, so I am going to marry you, but I'll marry you only on one condition." That you allow my son, Croher, to rule as king for a year and a day.
Smart woman.
Yeah, we love a woman who's got a plan. So at the time, being the child of the king meant you could become king one day yourself, kind of like the monarchy in England today. Very similar format. So she was thinking that of her future grandchildren and trying to make sure they had a good life. So she was like, look, I got some work to do. I'm going to secure royalty.
She's a smart lady. Yeah. She was thinking ahead.
Yeah, she was like, I'm not going to let this line die with me.
No.
Fair play to her. And Fergus, being all like gooey-eyed and in love, is like, of course, Nessa, like, whatever. So foolishly, he agrees. He's like, yep, 1 year, 1 day, Croher can rule. So during Croher's year-long reign, his mother, because, like we said, she's a very smart woman, spends all of her time rallying the people of Ulster and all the respected warriors onto her son Croher's side. She, like, gathers the nation, but she uses the tax money and gives it away to the important people to get them to support her son. Corruption
and bribery, basically, which
basically how society works.
Yeah, basically.
Not much has changed. So she, again, really smart woman. She's like, you know what? I'm going to really put in the work for this year and a day. So a year and a day passes. Fergus comes back expecting to reign as king. He's like, oh, I'm going to go back to my wife and my kingdom. It's going to be great. And he's going back to marry Nessa. Yeah. Do we think that happens?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No. However, because he goes back and the people are now massive fans of Croher.
Yeah.
And they're like, no way. We don't want you
as king.
We don't know you. Croher's been great. His mother's been great. We want him to remain as king. So Fergus, obviously, is pissed off and he's scorned and he's feeling betrayed, and he becomes an ally and a lover of Maeve. And you're like, who the hell is Maeve? Where did this woman come from?
Yes, Maeve is the queen of Connacht, and
she's a sworn enemy.
Yep, she's a sworn enemy of Croher, and you'll find out why.
Because Maeve and Croher used to be married.
They did.
Yeah, so Croher is known to be a man with an insatiable sexual appetite.
Like, so much so that even when he rules as king, one of the rules of his that he imposes on his nation is that any woman married to a man has to lie with him on her wedding night and not her husband that she's just married. He's like a ravenous beast of a man, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And because of that, he's been married 5 times, and 4 of those marriages have been to sisters.
Yes. And Maeve is one of those sisters.
Yeah, she is. And Kate's going to tell you about the drama that unfolds between these sisters. Yes. I mean, obviously, they've all been married to the same man.
Yeah. Like, there's some dramatic stories between these sisters.
Yeah, but she'll fill you in on the tea. So Maeve, being the bold, strong, independent woman she is, always wanted to be treated as the Connacht's equal. And
when she was married to him, she expected to have the same sort of power and like treatment as the king, basically.
Yeah, but of course she didn't.
She's a woman. She didn't get treated.
But she considered herself to be just as powerful and just as smart. And she was like, no, this is what I deserve.
Yeah.
But obviously Crocker, being a man, was like, no, what? I don't get it. And Maeve was treated so badly, so she left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why they're like sworn enemies now.
And she, flew off to Connacht and bagged herself the position of queen. She was like, you know what? If you're not going to let me be queen, I'm going to go find my own kingdom to be queen of.
There you go.
Which, like, badass Irish woman.
Yeah, we love her.
Yeah. So that was like part 1.
Yeah.
The establishment. So like I said at the very beginning of that, the entire cycle is set in and around the time of those 2 rulers. Now we're going to fast forward sometime.
We don't really know how long it is.
But it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But now there's this guy called Crinnew,
yeah.
Yeah, Crinnew. And he's a farmer and a widower. So we're back to some badass women. And he's working out in the fields one day. It's getting late. He's doing his thing. He makes his way back to his house. He's like, oh, I'm shattered. I just want to go to bed. But he gets in, and there's a woman in his house.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, what appears to be a woman. But remember those pagan gods we talked about earlier? She's actually one of those.
She is. She's a pagan goddess.
And her name is Macha.
Macha. Yeah.
And what usually happens in a story when a man and a woman are alone in a house together? Dun, dun,
we
dun.
can all put 2 and 2 together.
Dot, or whatever they say about me. And yes, even thousands of years ago, the same was true.
Yeah.
So, long story short, they got jiggy and she gets pregnant. And then they get married because, again, thousands of years ago, you get pregnant, you get married.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah. So, they're living their best life. He's married to this pagan god. She's pregnant. They're just living out their days. But one day, Crinnew hears about a festival being thrown by the king of Ulster, our guy, Róich. Yeah. So you remember him from the first story? Coming back. And Crinnew's like, festival? Yes, please. Like, I want some excitement in my life. And his wife, Macha, is like, fine, you can go, but don't tell anybody about me. She's like, I'm a goddess from the underworld, and it's not going to go down well if you start spilling all our secrets.
Yeah.
Do not tell anybody about me. And she says, you know what? In fact, I'm going to put a spell prohibiting an action, which is called...
It's called a gaze.
A gaze, yeah. Because she's like, I'm going to put this gaze on you to make sure you can't tell anyone in the festival about me. So she puts a spell on him that if he mentions her name to anyone, she'll know and she'll leave him.
Yeah.
Just game over if you say anything. And he's like, no, I'll never. I'm sure you can tell where this is going. But did he?
Of course he did. Because why? He's a man.
Well, and he got drunk.
Yeah.
So he gets drunk and he starts bragging to everyone at the festival that he's this magical wife with all this power and that she's so powerful she can outrun even the swiftest of horses. Which, like, what madness that's like. You're like, yeah, that's what my wife can do. So upon hearing him say this, the king, Róich, says, no way. No, I don't believe you. I have to see this for myself. So he has Crinnew arrested and demands the guards to go and fetch Macha and makes her race against his horses. He's like, no way, I never believe a woman could be so...
I feel like that's such a typical man thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have to see this for myself.
An entitled man thing where he's like,
yeah. this pregnant woman. Yep, I'm going to make her race
to
again.
me and race against my strongest horse. So she gets before the king, and she's like, yo, I'm pregnant. Like, please don't make me do this.
Yeah, she's begging him.
I'm in no state to be racing against horses. Like, truly begging him. The king's like, no, you have to. I brought you here.
Yeah.
You're racing this horse. So Maha, because she's a badass woman, is like, fine. And of course, she beats the horse in the race. But what happens? Because she's pregnant, she's just exerted herself immensely. She drops at the end of the race, and she drops to the ground because she's in labor.
She goes into labor, guys.
Yeah. And at the exact same time,
this is cool.
Yeah. All the men of Ulster who are looking on, like watching this all happen, fall to the ground with labor pains also.
Mm-hmm.
Because Maha placed a curse on the men of Ulster for treating her so badly.
She did, and this tale if you read the full Ulster Cycle, this tale is called The Curse of Maha.
Yeah. Which rightly so, though. All these men are just stood watching this poor, very pregnant woman race a horse because the king said yes.
And this curse, as part of the curse, she curses men to have these, they call them the Ulster pangs, these like painful pangs, and they will
like mimic labor pains,
and it will go on for like generations and generations of men, so it'll be passed down through the generations of all the men that live in Ulster.
And it's for 5 days and 5 nights.
5 days and 5 nights straight it will happen, and it comes on to them. The pangs will come on in their greatest hour of need. So whenever they are really like, I don't know, they need to be doing something or they need something, they'll be inconvenienced with
so
these like labour pains.
To give a modern day example, if someone's like going for a giant promotional interview, and the guy's like, I gotta put on my best show, those pangs of Ulster are gonna wipe him out.
Exactly, because that's what you did to her.
You should be able to manage, because she did. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But just such a badass.
She's such a baddie.
So there are 3 stories that we're going to skip over before Kate starts.
So just an FYI, guys, the Ulster Cycle is a very long
big
cycle.
Yeah.
And there's like the main body of it, which is what we want to just go over. But obviously within that, these stories are incredibly detailed. But we're going to skip over these next 3, which are
the wooing of Étan.
The wooing of Étan, yeah.
Rise of Conair Mór.
Conair Mór, yeah.
And the destruction of Durga. Durga's hostel.
Yeah, so the destruction of Durga. I think that's how you say it, Durga's hostel.
Yeah.
I'm going to link something below where that explains the full Ulster Cycle from beginning to end. So if you want to know the specifics of those stories, and there's a couple of other stories that we're skipping over later on as well, click on the link in the description and it will take you, and you can read in detail everything about it.
This episode will be like 4 hours otherwise.
It will be very, very long.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we are at the point of, so Macha's curse is done. And now we're moving on to one of the most famous stories, not just in the Ulster Cycle, but probably in Irish mythology as a whole. It's the big dog, it's the man himself, it's Cú Chulainn. So for anybody that doesn't know, Cú Chulainn is, his name is the Hound of Ulster. That's like what he's known as in Irish mythology. So let's talk about him. Cú Chulainn was born, and the story of his birth is a pretty cool tale, so I'm going to tell it to you now. For some reason, he's born, 2.5 times, let's say that. So he's first born to just an ordinary man and an ordinary woman that live in the woods in a very small house in Ulster, in the forest. So this woman is in labour in her house, and at the exact same time that she falls into labour, the King of Ulster, Crocha, our guy, and his sister, Diachtana, are out in the woods hunting. So they stumble across this really small house, and of course at the time, the king turns up at your door.
You're gonna be like, come on in.
Come on in. Yeah, you let them in. So for some weird reason, despite this man's wife being in labour, he's like to the king, and all his men and his sister. Come on in, guys.
Join the party.
I feel like this is just giving us a very well-rounded view of how women are not very respected in this society, which is true the world over, I think we can safely say. So yeah, she's in labour. The king and his sister, come on in, let's chill, let's drink some ale or do whatever we're doing. So she gives birth to a baby boy. The Ulster warriors, the king, the queen, they all fall asleep and they wake up the next day and they're in Newgrange. Now, we've mentioned Newgrange before very briefly on here, but stay tuned for Irish Fact of the Day because it's going to come back around. So something very cool to learn about there.
But for now, all you need is that they're in Newgrange.
So they've woken up in Newgrange. The man's gone, the woman's gone, the house is gone. It's just the king, his sister, all of their men, and this baby. This baby seems to have come with them to Newgrange. So Diartana is like, great, this is my baby now. I'm going to raise this baby as my own.
Finders keepers.
Yeah, exactly. So she takes him back to the kingdom of Ulster, fine. Unfortunately, not long after that, the baby falls ill and passes away. So that was birth number 1. Then, not long after the baby dies, Diartana is visited by one of the gods. Remember those pagan gods? One of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and he's a warrior god, and his name is Lugh, and he's also mentioned in the mythological cycle that I spoke about last time. So Lugh tells her that boy was his son and that he's going to be born again through her. Does that sound familiar story at all? A woman being visited by God and being told that she's going to give birth to a son?
Virgin Mary, is that you?
Yeah. So this is the sort of thing that we talk about when you can just see that Christianity is so woven so heavily into these stories. And
it's kind of like the first one resembles Mary being like, I just have this baby, I'm going to take care of it. So
exactly. So yeah, he says that you're going to birth my child again and you're going to name him Setanta. So she's like, okay, whatever. Sure enough, he's a god. He's got powers. Miraculously, she becomes pregnant and she agrees. She thinks, okay, fine, I'll name the baby Setanta. However, at this time, Diartana is a single woman. She's got no husband, which means she's single, out of wedlock, and pregnant, which is big no-no in those days. So the people of Ulster are gossiping about her, whispering about her, calling her a harlot. All of these rumours.
Which is the worst. Like, you'd be like, oh God.
All of these rumours are flying around about her. And you have to remember, she's the king's sister.
So this is like detrimental.
Yeah, to her reputation, the family's reputation. Like she's very high in society. So she's like, no, I can't be having these rumours flying around about me. So she kills the baby, basically.
So this is like the second birthing.
This is, the second sort of second pregnancy, let's say that. So yeah, she kills the baby. So skip forward some time, and Diartana is now married to some dude named Sulatan. I think that's how you pronounce it. And one day she takes a sip of a drink, and in that drink there's like this teeny tiny little creature. And as she's sipping the drink, the creature jumps from the cup into her mouth and goes down her throat. Turns out that little tiny creature is the warrior god Lugh again. He's showing up all over the place.
He's like, no, I'm back.
This baby's coming whether you like it or not. So she falls pregnant again. And this time she gives birth to Setanta. But obviously she's married now. So that's fine. Everybody just assumes that it's her husband's. But really, Setanta is Lugh's son. So Setanta is actually half human and half Tuatha Dé Danann. Again, kind of like Jesus.
Yeah. It is when you look back, you're like, wow.
Yeah. So Setanta, he lives a pretty sweet life. Like he's been born into, royalty, very high society. He's the nephew of the king. Like he's good. He's chilling. One day, the king invites him along to his friend Cullen's house. So Setanta is busy playing a hurling match. And just an FYI, I think this is really cool. This just shows you how the game of hurling that is still played today in Ireland is like an ancient game. These stories are like thousands of years old, and they were still playing that game even back then. So that's very cool that modern day Irish people have been able to preserve that as part of their culture, even after everything that's happened in their country, even after colonization. They've like held on to these things,
which and like
so tightly.
Like, oh, it's just a sport. Yeah, but it's something that's carried thousands of generations.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. It's so
it's like
unique to Irish culture. Yeah, it's amazing. Anyway, so his uncle's like, come to my friend's house. He's playing a hurling match, and he says, you know what, you go on ahead. I'll finish up my match and I'll meet you down there. He's like, okay. So the king's away at his friend Cullen's house. He forgets to tell Setanta that the grounds of his friend's house are actually guarded by a very big and very scary guard dog. So Setanta finishes his hurling match, walks up to the house, and he's met with this dog, and this dog is going for him. He's scared, and he's like, I need to protect myself. The only thing he's got on him is a hurling stick. So sadly, he bludgeons the dog to death with a hurling stick. Just as that happens, the king and Cullen, the king's friend, come running out, and they see that this dog is dead. And Cullen is really upset that his like lovely little companion has just been bludgeoned to death, and also that he now has no dog to guard his house, basically. So Setanta apologizes, and he says, you know what, I'll make you a promise. I'll protect the house. I'll protect this house myself for a whole year. So he lives out in like the barn or whatever, protecting the house. And he also trains up the puppy of that dead dog to become the new guard dog. And him protecting that house earned him the name Cú Chulainn, which means the Hound of Cullen. So he was like Cullen's guard dog, basically. So that's how his name came to be, Cú Chulainn. And then as in the wider context of Irish mythology, he's known as the Hound of Ulster. He's like Ulster's greatest warrior, protector, all of that stuff. So, fine. Then, Cú Chulainn's older. This is a full story in itself, but I'm just going to give you the brief outline of this. He meets and falls in love with this woman called Emer. Emer will not give him the time of day. She is only interested in men who have performed heroic tasks. So Cú Chulainn, who remember is half Tuatha Danann, half human. So he's much more powerful than just your regular man. He's got access to sort of godlike powers.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm only interested in a man that's performed a heroic task. He's like, bet.
Hold up.
Yeah, easy peasy. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So he goes off, he fights some battles, he kills some people, he comes back to Emer. She's like, let's go. So they end up getting married. That story is called The Wooing of Emer, and it's his own full tale in the Ulster Cycle. And again, it will be linked down below. And then there's, again, a couple of other, what are they called? Tales that I'm going to skip over because we'll be here forever.
Yeah.
I'm going to go straight to the cattle raid of Cú Chulainn. Now, this is another story that I think is probably one of the most popular in Irish mythology. So, this is the tale of a massive battle between the provinces of Ulster and the provinces of Ulster and Connacht. So, do you remember Queen Medb, who we mentioned earlier? Queen of Connacht? Well, she's back, and she's better than ever.
Back with a vengeance.
So, her and her husband, who's this guy called Ailill, who's actually the High King of all of Ireland.
Okay.
They're arguing one day, about who's got the most riches, who's the best ruler, who's got, the most things to brag about. Her husband is boasting of all of his riches, and he mentions this thing that is his prized possession that he loves the most, which is this big, white, beautiful bull. And you have to remember, in these days, cattle was like a big
commodity.
Yeah, it was like they traded with it. It was like currency, basically. Yeah. Like cows were massive.
And if you had like healthy, rich, meaty livestock,
fat cows, you were like well off. Yeah, exactly. So he's got this big, beautiful bull that he's like completely besotted with. And he keeps going on about this bull, and he's like talking about this bull almost as if he loves it more than he loves Maeve. And she's like,
Whoa.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Doing this again.
She's like, you think that your bull is the best bull in the whole of Ireland? We'll see about that. So being the stubborn, sort of sassy woman that she is, this woman's on a mission to prove her husband wrong.
The icon.
She is quite an icon, let's be fair. So she's like, all right then, I'll show you. You think yours is the best ball ever? Let's see. So she reaches out to her friend Dara, who's this guy from Ulster. And she's heard through the grapevine that he's got this amazing brown ball, this beautiful, big, beefy, meaty ball that's like the prize cow of Ireland. So she's like, Dara, pal, can I borrow your ball for a little while?
Because I'll give it back, but
this guy is getting on my nerves, and I need to show him that he doesn't have the best ball in the whole of Ireland. I know. She's a petty queen.
Yeah.
Literally petty queen.
Yeah.
So Dara says, sure, yeah, come on, like take the ball. So her and her men make the journey up to Ulster. And Dara's like, absolutely, you can borrow the ball. This is such a weird sentence. Yeah. So he's like, while you're here, let's have a feast. Let's celebrate our friendship. You know, we'll make a big celebration out of like the borrowing of the ball.
I'm about to give you my prize.
My prize ball. Like, let's make a big ceremony out of it. Let's make it official. So her men and Dara's men are drinking together, and everybody's feasting, and they're having a good time. And one of Maeve's men foolishly turns to Dara's man and says, we would have just taken the ball, you know. If Dara wasn't going to give it to us, we would have just taken it anyway by force.
Why would you just not keep your mouth shut?
I know.
It's because men get drunk and just...
Exactly. Is there a pattern forming here of men getting drunk and bragging to people? So Dara overhears this, and he's like, excuse me? I've brought you here, offered you my ball, put on this big feast. Spread for you, and now you're saying this about me. So he's like, absolutely not, leave. So, of course, they leave, but Maeve is like, you said I could have that ball, and I want that ball, so I'm having that ball. But, so she plans to, like, wage war on Dara for this. She's a woman she is a woman scorned, and you know the saying, hell hath no fury. She was like, absolutely not. So she plans to wage war on him. She gets told by this fortune teller, if you do that, you're going to end up, Cú Chulainn is going to come for you. He's the Hound of Ulster. He's the protector of Ulster. He's their greatest warrior. You know, he loves Ulster. He's not going to let you get away with this. Yeah. Do you think she listens? Do you think Maeve listens? Absolutely not.
Listened before?
No. She's like...
She's a petty queen. She's getting that ball. Yeah. She's winning that argument.
I'm getting the ball. She's like, absolutely not. So she wages a war anyway. So... Now, do you remember the pangs, them old pangs of Ulster that the Ulster men are cursed with? So now might be a pretty
hour of need.
Hour of need, do you reckon? So of course, all the men of Ulster are out of action. They've got these pangs for 5 days and nights. They're all in labour, let's say.
Which women will be fine. They'll be carrying on.
Yeah. So who has to come to the rescue? Isn't it just big bad Cú Chulainn? He's like on his own. He's fighting this whole war against Maeve's army of Connacht by himself, and he's winning, to be honest. He's like single-handedly defeating all of her army.
Which I'm sure is just pissing her off.
Yeah, exactly. So Maeve is like trying to bribe. Got to the point where she's like, okay, this guy's pretty good. They said he was good, and he's pretty good. Yeah, so let me try and bribe him. So she's offering him land. She's offering him all the women he could ever possibly want. She's offering him livestock, wealth, everything. He's like, no, because it's his, like, Ulster is his.
He's driven.
Yeah, that's his mission, is to protect Ulster. So he's having none of it. So she keeps sending men. All of her army are going. Cú Chulainn keeps defeating them. So she brings out the big guns, which is kind of it's a bit spiteful what she does, but she's a woman with a mission and she wants to win a war. So you know, you do what you got to do. So basically, I'm going to just add here, I'm not sure how this relationship comes to be. So she sends in Cú Chulainn's stepfather, which is this guy called Fergus. And I'm assuming in one of the stories that we've skipped over, it will explain how Cú Chulainn's mother now comes to be with this Fergus guy, because I'm not sure how that happens.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think it's Fergus from the first story.
I think it is.
When we were like researching all this, it's Fergus from the first story, but
we're not really sure how they've gotten together. Yeah. But they have. So Maeve says to Fergus, and I don't know why, but Fergus is on Connacht's side. So Maeve says to Fergus, you better go and kill your stepson right now because he's causing me a mischief and I don't like it. So Fergus is like, fine, she's the queen. What am I going to do? Tell her no? Yeah. And I don't want to be an enemy of Maeve, to be quite honest with you.
I wouldn't either.
Like, no, I wouldn't either. So he goes down to Cú Chulainn and he tries to fight him, but when he's looking at him face to face, he's like,
how am I going to kill my
stepson? Yeah. Come on, like I love his mother. Like, there's no way I can't do it.
I'm not going to cause that hurt.
Yeah. So he go like, no, I can't do it. Then but he says to Cú Chulainn, they make like a pact, kind of. Cú Chulainn says, fine, I'll yield, but you owe me big time. If I do this favor for you, you're going to have to do me some kind of favor back. So he does. He's
just getting tired. He's like, all right, I'm out, but like, I'm not giving up.
Exactly. So Maeve is furious that the stepdad hasn't killed Cú Chulainn. She's like, you're supposed to be,
I gave you
on my side. Yeah. Like, what are you playing at? So she has one last trick up her sleeve, which is she sends in Cú Chulainn's step brother, which is this Fergus guy's son, and his name is like Fadai. I'm gonna say Fadai, but I don't think that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, I'll put it on the screen. So Fadai and Cú Chulainn. Fadai doesn't have the same sentiment as his father. He's like, no, I can.
I'll kill you.
Yeah, I'll do it. Fine. So they're fighting for days and days and days, and Fadai actually ends up injuring Cú Chulainn. He gets through his armor and he is seriously injured. So 5 days and nights have passed by this point, and all of the men of Ulster are now over their pangs. So they come to Cú Chulainn's rescue and put him in his sick bed to try and recover. And there's a full-on, it's not just Cú Chulainn now, it's the whole army of Ulster versus the whole army of Connacht. So it's a big old battle. Cú Chulainn's in his sick bed, and he calls for his stepdad Fergus and says, remember that favour that I said that you owe me? I'm calling it in right now. You need to tell your men to yield. So what can he do? He does. So he goes back to them and says, right, lads, this is it. We've got to stop. He's called in his favour. So Ulster win, basically. While all this is happening, Maeve says to her husband, right, this is not going well. Let's me and you just steal the ball. We'll just steal the brown ball.
Well, everybody's a bit distracted.
Yeah, they're all a bit distracted. We'll steal the ball, take it back to Connacht, and then that's it. It doesn't matter. So they do. They steal the ball. Then the brown ball and the white ball have they have a battle between themselves.
To be the alpha ball.
To be the alpha ball, and the brown ball ends up winning, which isn't a big part of the story, but I think it's more sort of symbolism of the victory of Ulster and the moral victory of Ulster. And
Maeve's victory, where she's like, I'm going to win in the end.
Yeah. So it's not a huge part of the story, but I just thought I'd mention it. So the brown ball wins and Ulster have won the battle, basically. So the Connacht army leave Ulster. They all go back to Connacht, heads hanging down, ashamed they've lost. Now, good old Maeve, she is a proud woman, and she is not happy whatsoever about her defeat. So she decides, I'm going to have Cú Chulainn murdered. I don't like you losing, and I'm not going to.
Takes the pettiness a step too far.
Step too far this time. So basically, she conspires with one of Cú Chulainn's enemies, who's this guy called Louis. Not Lou, who is Cú Chulainn's father. It's this just other human guy called Louis. And Louis is the son of the king of the province of Munster. And his name is Cú Roy. I think that's how you pronounce it. And Cú Chulainn actually killed Cú Roy, the king of Munster. I think that's in one of the stories that we've skipped over, so do go and click the link below if you want to know the full version of it. So he killed Roy, so Louis is now wanting to avenge his father's death. So he's absolutely, he works, Maeve says to him, do you want to do this for me? He's like, yes, I'm after this guy anyway, so I definitely will. And she also recruits three daughters of this guy called Cú Chulainn, who was a very powerful sorcerer, and he passed those his powers on to his daughters. So his daughters are like three extremely powerful witches.
Maeve was like, I'm
getting you,
yeah,
exactly. So the witches like cast this spell on Cú Chulainn, which kind of sends him a little bit insane, and he gets the notion in his brain that he needs to go back to Connacht and defeat Maeve's army again by himself. He obviously isn't thinking straight. They've put this spell on him to think that, so he makes the journey, and on his journey he meets these three hags who are the daughters of this guy, these three witches. And they're tricking him. They're really nice to him and they're lovely to him, and they offer him to sit with them and share a meal. So he does.
Three beautiful ladies. He'd be like, yeah.
But they've cursed the food, so he doesn't know. So he eats this food, and that's basically like he's basically signed a contract. When he put that food in his mouth, that's like he's basically written his own death note. Basically, it's like now he's eaten that food, it's inevitable that his death is coming. Like he's gonna die, basically. So he carries on his journey and gets to Connacht to face Maeve's army. And Louis, who is now fighting for Maeve, Cú Chulainn's in front of this army and he's taunting him. This Louis guy is just taunting Cú Chulainn, winding him up, saying things to him. So Cú Chulainn launches. Did you ever watch Game of Thrones where that guy?
No.
Oh, have you never seen it?
No, I've never seen Game of Thrones.
Wow. Anyway, he throws this spear at Louis, but it misses him. Louis picks it up off of the ground and launches it back, and he gets him in the guts and he disembowels Cú Chulainn.
Oh.
So Cú Chulainn staggers down to the edge of the lake where he sadly passes away. And that's the end of Cú Chulainn. And then the very rounding up of the Ulster Cycle is King Crocha, that's his name, Crocha, also dies. In one of the stories that he skipped over, he gets hit in the head with a stone from a slingshot, which gets lodged into his brain and it eventually kills him.
So gruesome.
I know. And then Maeve gets killed by her own nephew for killing his mother, which is her sister. Remember earlier about the drama between the sisters, I said? That's part of the drama.
I mean, we all knew Maeve was going to die by some vengeance.
I mean, she's pissed everybody off. Somebody was going to get her.
She put a target on her back.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. So, everyone's dead. And that is the end of the Ulster Cycle.
Woo. It was quite
it's lengthy, but it's good. And I'd like to learn more about it myself, honestly. Like read more of the tales. Yeah, definitely.
It is really good. It's just lengthy and a lot of battles.
Yeah, there's a lot of battles.
A soap opera.
Yeah, it is like a soap opera. There's a lot of drama in this one, you're right. So now it's time for Irish Fact of the Week.
I don't know what this one is, so this will be...
Do you not know this one?
No.
Okay, so this is Irish Fact of the Week. And remember I mentioned to you guys earlier about Newgrange. So this is a real place in Ireland that is featured in that tale from thousands and thousands of years ago. So this was already built by then. And Newgrange is a Neolithic passage tomb. It's in County Meath. It's older than Stonehenge, and it's even older than the Egyptian pyramids. It was built before the pyramids were built. So, and the pyramids, I think, are 5,000 years.
I was going to say, which is wild.
It's crazy, isn't it?
The building of the pyramids closer to woolly mammoths than Cleopatra being alive. So, that really puts this into perspective.
How old it is. Yeah. It's extremely, extremely old. It's still there today. You can go and see it. Like, it's
probably
wild.
Magical.
So it dates back to around 3200 BCE, which is before Christ, I think.
Well, they've changed what that stands for, but before Christ.
Before Christ, yeah. And it's built in such a way. Like ancient people had so much knowledge, and this tomb.
This is where I definitely think we've lost.
Lost 100%.
Yeah, we've regressed, and now we're rebuilding.
Yeah. So, these ancient people built this passage tomb on Newgrange to be perfectly aligned with the sun every summer solstice. So on the summer solstice every year, the sun light hits these holes, and the entire tomb is filled up with sunlight. It is phenomenal. During lockdown, it was the summer solstice, and they streamed it live. You could go on
look for a video of it.
Yeah, you can look. I'll link something actually down below on YouTube. I'll show you what it looks like. But like, how magical is that?
And like the math that must have been
This is what
involved
I
with
mean.
that.
Even like things like even the pyramids, like it's insane that people that don't have the tools that we have in this day and age are able to build things that are so fantastic. It just shows you like humans are brilliant when we want to be, you know, like amazing. But yeah, that's Irish Fact of the Week.
Which is super cool.
I think it's super cool.
I would love to be there for summer solstice.
You can go. We should go.
Yeah, we should. And just because I would be like, wow.
It is, yeah, it's very magical. So yeah, guys, that was the Ulster Cycle. I hope you enjoyed it.
So it's 2 out of 4.
It's 2 out of 4. So the next week I will be talking about the Fenian cycle. And then the last week, I think, is the historical cycle, which I think, as you can tell from the title, is probably, it's about like more factual, I think.
Yeah, and I think it'd be more, more people might know about it because it's not as...
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thank you for listening, guys, as usual. Please like, please comment, please subscribe. Please follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok.
We had so many episode downloads this week.
Oh, yeah, 75.
Yes.
Guys, this is so exciting. And listen to us wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all of the other places. I'll put mine now. I'll put the handle here. It's just Plastic Paddies Podcast on all. I'm
just buying the seat.
It's Plastic Paddies Podcast on all socials.
Plus, I'm about to appear in the next Therapy Thursday episode. So.
Yeah, she'll be here on Therapy Thursdays, which, of course, Therapy Thursdays is coming on the 25th of May. So please make sure you tune into that.
It's a good one.
It's a really good one.
Juicy.
And our lovely Patricia is back with us.
Again.
And yeah, that's it for this week, guys. Share. Please comment.
There's some really nice comments last week on Kate's solo episode, which were really nice.
Thanks. Just interact, guys. Please do. We love it.
And if you're Tommy Mac or
Justine Stafford, or Dane Buckley, comedian,
Kate's anyone,
you're coming on this. You're going to be a guest. If I have to sit you here, gagged and tied up, you're doing it, okay?
That would be some very incriminating.
Can you imagine? I'm just like, so tell me about yourself, and they're just like,
She's turning into Maeve. Yeah, like, this will happen.
Maeve's spirit is entering me and taking over. But yeah, okay. Thank you so much for listening, guys. That's it for this week. Shanae. Bye.